Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe, and this is a very special episode of Round Our Way. I'm joined by Jay Mottershead. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, Mr. Joe Smith.
I'm joined by Scotty as well. How are you?
Why didn't I get the full name treatment?
David Scott as head.
I'm a lot better now.
David Scott as head and Justin Mottershead. And we're going to be talking Marcus Rashford. Should he go to the World Cup? Yes or no? There's loads of things that go into this. Does he want to? Should he stay? Is it good for his career? Is it good for Man United? All of those things we're going to get into. First of all, Jay, I want you to give me your position. Should Marcus Rashford go to the World Cup next month?
I think he should. Do you want me to explain why?
Give me, you got 60 seconds.
60 seconds. I think Marcus Rashford should go to the World Cup for several reasons. One, he deserves to. I think England would have a better chance of winning the World Cup with him in the team. If you pick players based on who's going to give you the best opportunity of winning a tournament, then you take Marcus Rashford to the World Cup. He's banging form. He's added head into his game. We know what he's capable of. He's done it both for club and for country in the past. And I think he's a very dangerous attacker that has something different from some of his other England colleagues. So I get it from that point of view. I also think from a personal point of view for Marcus Rashford, he'll want to go to the World Cup. We know he went to the Euros when he was waiting for an operation, because he was keen to play in that tournament. And I think if you look at what happened to him in the Euros, missing that penalty, getting all that grief, the whole sort of, not the whole country, but a lot of the idiots turned against him. I think this is almost like a David Beckham-esque redemption arc here, where he could go to the World Cup, perform for England, and sort of, he doesn't need to redeem himself, but the narrative could be there that, you know what, he went from one tournament where he was sort of hammered to another tournament where he played an important part for England. And I also feel that...
I've got to stop you there, Jay. That's 60 seconds.
Oh. Yeah, I could have gone on for longer.
Could have gone on for longer. And you will. You get a chance to go through every single point you've got. Scotty, 1 minute, starting now, why Marcus Rashford shouldn't go to the World Cup.
Well, I agree with Jay's points wholeheartedly if you're an England fan, because he didn't mention anything there that I think is a positive for Manchester United. I think that Marcus Rashford has been thoroughly disrespected by Gareth Southgate after he's not been picked since he missed the penalty. What he's supposed to do with a player that's gone through the sort of torment afterwards by not starting him again in another game afterwards. I'd rather Marcus Rashford didn't go to the World Cup, and much like Haaland for Manchester City, come back fresh after the break and then go take the defences apart following the pre-season, following the later on in the season. I just don't think it benefits Manchester United by him going. And like most Manchester United players, they become scapegoats for England's downfall. I don't think he'll play consistently for England. He doesn't seem to be in Gareth Southgate's plans. You're making points there, Jay, about him being a dangerous option. Southgate's picked players that have had worse form for England since Euro 2020 final. He hasn't picked Marcus Rashford, but he's been picked Harry Maguire.
There you go. We'll start with that. Let me come to you, Jay, to give you a chance to answer some of those points there. The first one, Marcus Rashford, weirdly, as someone who's been one of the most sort of famous, one of the best wingers, one of the best British wingers since he sort of made his debut for Manchester United, I was looking through this the other day, and I know Scotty's got a few stats that we can go into afterwards, and I won't spoil any of those, but he's never been a starting regular for England in a tournament. Never. In the 2018 World Cup, he was often used as a sub. He often didn't start. It was a lot of Raheem Sterling going on. In the 2020, which was the 2021 Euros, he basically had a broken back, didn't he? He was certainly waiting for surgery.
For his operation, yeah, his surgery.
Wasn't a regular fixture whatsoever. He's despite his acclaim and his status in British football, he's never been someone that's been picked regularly for England. So what does him going actually bring to not just Man United, which we'll get onto, but what does it even bring for him? Because is he even going to start?
Well, you make some good points there. If you look at 2016, he was still a kid. I think when he went to the Euros there, he only got a cameo. 2018, you made the point about, remember going into that tournament, the argument was it going to be him or Sterling? And it was Sterling. You go to 2020, again, was it him or Sterling? It's Sterling. I think Marcus Rashford is playing far better than Raheem Sterling now for his club, arguably for the first time in the last few years. Raheem Sterling, whether you like him or not, was banging in goals for Manchester City. I know he missed chances, but his record was pretty impressive. He had like big scoring seasons and big assist seasons in a team that was winning the Premier League. That's not the case anymore. Also, from a personal point of view, these players are human beings. Marcus Rashford obviously loves playing for his country. He wants to go to a tournament. He went to the last tournament with an injury hanging over him that he could have got an operation for before the tournament because he wanted to play for England. So I think personally, if he goes to this tournament, this is his best chance of playing in this tournament because you've not got Raheem Sterling at the powers that he was previously. And I think Marcus Rashford would be buzzing to be there, buzzing to be given the opportunity. I think he's going to suffer I know this sounds a little bit melodramatic, but almost mentally from not going, because it's like you missed out again. You've had another tournament where you've not gone or you've not even been picked for the squad. I think that'd hurt him.
So, yeah, just respond to that then. Even if you're looking from a Man United lens, surely a confident, happy, bigging himself up, I've just been to the World Cup with my country, Marcus Rashford does better for Manchester United going into the second half of the season.
I mean, a lot of that's on the optimism whether England will do any good at the World Cup. Surely, isn't it?
Not necessarily. No, if you go to the tournament and England get knocked out in the quarters or whatever, but you've played and you've done well and you've redeemed yourself a little bit from what happened. He doesn't have to redeem himself. No, but mentally, I mean, the whole country was hammering him. Like, I know he doesn't have to, but look at the way David Beckham responded when he got that goal against Argentina. It's not like he needed to do it, but it obviously gave him a boost.
No, I agree with you, but for me personally, he doesn't have to redeem himself, and I think he's only just picking himself back up from not being played for, not playing for England.
I don't know if that's had a massive effects on his club form, not playing for England. Like, I mean, what are we in 11 games into the season?
Flip it round. If that's a possibility, then the flip side of it is he goes to the World Cup, doesn't score, has a bad game, then we've got the other opportunity for him to come back completely demoralised.
I think he will. I do think he will. I think he's better now than he was in that tournament. He went into that tournament, he wasn't in great form and he had an injury. I think Marcus Rashford now this season is playing practically as well as I've seen Marcus Rashford. I'm confident if he went to the World Cup and played for England, he'd do well. I think he would play well.
If he'll play, but if he plays for England. But do you think it's part of Southgate's plan?
Because you've got some stats on that, haven't you? I
think he's 25 now, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's only played 46 international games. 12 of them are friendlies. And out of the competitive games that he's played, he's only played like half the time. So I think he could have played 3,200 minutes. He only ended up playing like 1,500 minutes in his total England career. For a 25-year-old that has been at the forefront, maybe just behind Kane as England's best
more Sterling, though, isn't it, that's been in his way? That's my point. Like, Raheem Sterling, it's always been the debate of Sterling or Rashford. Going back to 2018, if you remember going to that tournament, Rashford scored against Costa Rica, I think, was it? And a lot of the press and people going, it's got to be Marcus.
We were there because that was at Leeds. That was at Leeds, wasn't it,
but Southgate went with Sterling. I kind of understood it.
But surely.
But now I feel like Marcus Rashford has overtaken Sterling.
But on that then, you think he has? Based on Gareth Southgate, who in recent months, as things have started to look a bit cagey for him, the results aren't going his way in terms of England, people like Maguire, people like Sterling, these people are keeping their place. He's almost doing the Solskjaer thing of, things aren't going well, I'm going to hunker down with my boys who have done me well so far. People like Maguire getting played despite his form rather than because of it.
Yeah.
Let's say Marcus Rashford goes to the World Cup and is a not unused sub, but a little used sub behind a sort of underperforming Raheem Sterling. What does that do for Marcus Rashford?
I still think going to that tournament is better than him not going.
You think?
I think if he's not getting picked because Gareth Southgate doesn't pick him, I don't think him being in that tournament or him being part of that squad is a negative for him. I think him not even making the squad hurts him more than not going at all. I just think that not going to the World Cup, and let's face fact, he'll be 29 by the time the next World Cup goes around. Anything can happen, get an injury. You know, remember Phil Walcott? Phil Walcott went to a World Cup when he was 17. He never went to another one. He never went to another World Cup. The opportunities are so scarce that I think if you miss one, it can play in your head. You think that might have been my only chance. So I think even if he goes, it's not ideal if you go and you don't get picked as much. But again, I just feel that Marcus in this form, and maybe I'm overconfident in him, I think if he goes, I think he gets a chance and I think he does well. I do.
Do you think he gets that chance? Do you think he would play for England if he goes?
It'd be a sub. I don't think he'll start for England. And given that Southgate up until this point hasn't built a team with Marcus Rashford in mind because he didn't think he was hitting any sort of form. Okay, he has over the last few weeks, but I don't see Rashford as the sort of player that drags defenders left, right, and centre. Is the sort of player that suits Southgate's pragmatic football.
I disagree. I think Marcus Rashford can drag defenders left, right,
No. You're missing what I'm saying. That's what Marcus Rashford can do. Yeah. But I just think that Gareth Southgate is far too a pragmatic manager to be able to get the best out of Marcus Rashford and what he's good at and what has been proven at Old Trafford. But just go back to your point before. If he doesn't go, he's a Wivenshaw lad, Mancunian. Do you not think that might give him a bit more impetus to say, all right, Southgate, you fucked up in Qatar. I'm going to show you what I can do and continues this form. Puts a fire in the belly. He doesn't come across as the sort of one who's going to sort of sit there and mopo for bleeding mulled wine in December.
No, I don't think he's going to go, I'm going to play a bit harder now because I've not been picked for England. I do think he can have a bit more confidence because he's played for England. I do think he can have a bit more confidence because the nation maybe loves him again. I think that can give you a spring in your step. I don't necessarily think having a bit of a chip on your shoulder because you didn't get picked for last tournament, he needs that motivation. I just think that if Marcus goes, personally, I think he'll do well. I also think that he's a different option for Gareth Southgate because we've seen him this season playing down the middle for the first time in a long time where he's been down the middle and effective. And I think Marcus Rashford could go with England, and if he's needed, play down the middle, and if he's needed, play down the left-hand side, maybe not the right-hand side as much. And I think this is probably his best opportunity for England under Gareth Southgate because of that.
Just on that then. So let's say he goes. Let's say Sterling has a stinker or Southgate don't fancy it or Sterling gets an injury, anything like that. Rashford starts every single game.
Yeah.
He plays 3 group stage matches. He plays the next round. He plays the next round. Let's say we get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and plays every minute of every game. Are you not worried that we might have a burnt out Marcus Rashford by the end of this season? A Marcus Rashford that is playing 38 Premier League games, up to sort of another 15, 20 cup games and that for Man United, plus now another 10 games for England. Does that not bother you come May, June, whenever the season ends, that we might have someone that's now played too many games or it increases likelihood of injury for Man United?
I don't know if it would be 10 games. What's the maximum number of games you can play for England? Is it like 6 or something, or 7? I mean, I get your point.
3 group stage.
Yeah,
3 group stage. 7.
And that's if we get to the final.
7.
I mean,
but
it's always a concern that, is he going to be burnt out? I understand that because he has had injuries before. He has had that problem before. And you think, okay, it could go that way. He could go to England. He could get an injury and he could be out for the rest of the season. I get all that and I understand that argument. But I think there's a risk with that happening with anyone. I just feel at the moment, Marcus Rashford, for me, he just seems to be like back to his best. I think he deserves to go. And I think he'll get confidence from going. And I'm not overly concerned about the England thing in terms of whether England, do well with Marcus Rashford. My main concern is Marcus Rashford himself. I think he deserves it, and I think that if he went there, I think he will do well if he goes there. That's my thing. I'm confident he will. And I also think I know I keep going back to this point, but this is the first time I can remember in a long time where you look at the other options around him and there's massive flaws there. I think there's always been this thing hanging over him where he's up against players that are winning the league every season. He's up against players that are banging in more goals than him every season. That's not the case at the minute. He's going into this tournament, if he keeps up his form, as one of the most informed players in the country.
So Raheem Sterling, the season leading up to the Euro 2020 or 2021, he got 14 goals, 12 assists for Man City, which wasn't his best, but the season before that, I think he'd had an absolutely massive season. He'd got 31 goals and 10 assists. Last season, Raheem Sterling, so the one leading up to this one, for City, he got 17 goals, 9 assists, which is pretty decent. But so far at Chelsea, obviously they've already sacked their manager. They're not doing particularly well. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists. Rashford 7 goals, 3 assists so far. So whilst obviously Sterling isn't playing as well as he was, it's not like he's doing so bad.
But he's not in the flavour of the month. Manchester City team winning the title, which everyone, come on, we know it and we've sat here discussing it. Everyone was loving Pep and all this stuff, and the football he's playing, and Sterling's kicked on, and all this, and the winning titles. He's not doing that. He's in a club that's struggling to get into the top 4, that have sacked the manager, and his numbers aren't great. His numbers are all right, but I don't feel like Sterling is as effective or is as popular as he was. And also, like I said earlier, it's not just a case of him necessarily coming in for Sterling. I think now you can even look at Marcus Rashford and you go, if you wanted to, if anything happened to Kane, he could fill in down the middle. People go, you got Ivan Toney, you got Tammy Abraham. I'd rather have Marcus Rashford down the middle than either of those two. Yeah, I like those players.
They're proven in defence.
Let me ask you a question, Scotty, then. So one of Jay's big points is how this could positively affect him.
Yeah.
Let's say he does go to the World Cup. Even if we don't get to a semi-final, let's say we get to a quarter-final, but he gets 3 goals, he starts most games, he has what for him would be the most productive
he has a fantastic tournament.
Let's say he has a really good tournament. Surely that would make him come back to United a more confident, happier, maybe even better player.
Yeah,
or certainly a better performing player.
I don't know if I'm cynical, and I don't think that this England team is going to do anything at all in Qatar. Given the form running up to the tournament, I just don't see it. And I just, from the tournaments that we've seen in the past, and you know this, Jay, United players are always the reason for the downfall. You're making their comparisons with Sterling not playing well. He'll still get in if we're looking at Harry Maguire still getting in the team, but not playing. It's like
because Maguire's up against Tyrone Mings and Dross like that. Do you know what I mean? Like that, he's in by default.
Tomori at AC Milan's a far better.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but Rashford's got an established player who's been a regular under Southgate in front of him. Yeah. Maguire's never had anyone in front of him like that.
My major concern is And I get all yours, and I think for Marcus as a person, he'll want to go to the World Cup because why would you not, right? Yeah. And that's great, and I'd love him to sort of succeed any ambition that he has. But Joe nailed it there. We have a striker crisis at Manchester United, don't we? Because we only have one, basically, out-and-out striker that's of an age that you expect to go and play a lot of games, who is hitting form. Now, I'm cynical, and worst case scenario, if England do have a good World Cup, or he does get injured, and I might be selfish, that screws Manchester United. And Manchester United are my main concern, ahead of Marcus Rashford's ambition.
Ahead of my main concern, no, let's not get twisted. England's not my main concern. My point of view, my free line tattoo, that's another story. My main concern is Manchester United. It always will be, and it always has been, and I'm not overly bothered about what goes on with England. I just feel that I have a confidence in Marcus Rashford, and maybe it is misguided, that he can go there, he can do well, and he can benefit Manchester United on the back of that. I think we saw it, I go back to, was it 2002 when England didn't particularly have a great World Cup. I know we got to the quarterfinals, but you look at our group and you look at the route there. We got our arse handed to us by Brazil. It was the most one-sided 2-1 ever. But the whole thing was Beckham and buzzing and all that sort of stuff.
And just 12 months later, it fell out with Fergie and was sold.
Well,
so
we won the league though, didn't we?
No,
we came back when he won the league. And, do you know what I mean? And I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit schmaltzy and a little bit sort of sentimental. I feel like he deserves it, and I feel like Marcus Rashford's main issue sometimes is just confidence. The kid's got all the ability in the world. I really do believe that. And I think his confidence fell off a cliff last season. And I think part of it was the problem that happened with England after the Euros. Maybe taking a little bit of time to come back from his operation. I know he started scoring when he did come back, but he had a bit of a lag after that. And I feel like going into this tournament, if he's given an opportunity, I think he'll do well, and I think he'll benefit from that, and I think he'll get confidence from that. And I just think that momentum as well. He's playing really well at the minute, and I think a month off, I think could hurt him rather than help him.
Is that the case with Erling Haaland then, who's not going to the World Cup for Man City?
What do you mean?
Because he's not going to the World Cup, do you think that will hurt him?
No, because he's a completely different player. Erling Haaland is just a cyborg. I think Erling Haaland could sit in a caravan for the next 6 months, come out of it and bang in a hat-trick in his first game. I don't think it's the same as Marcus Rashford, unfortunately, because I think Erling Haaland is just playing at a different level.
Haaland's never had periods of his career where he's lacking confidence.
He doesn't run on emotion.
No, Erling Haaland had a season where he scored 4 league goals in a season at the age of... I know he's not even that. He's 23. He's not 23 yet. I get, I understand that. Whereas with Marcus, and also Erling Haaland's not going because his country aren't going. He's not going because he hasn't been picked, he hasn't been deemed good enough. And I just feel that this momentum now that Marcus has got, this confidence he's got going back, I personally, again, believe it will be helps. Now, you make a good point. I could be wrong, and he could go to the World Cup, miss a penalty, the nation hates him, and we have another season like we had under Ralph Rangnick with him. But I do believe that Marcus Rashford will succeed if he's given a chance for England. I think he's in that form, and I think he's good enough. And I personally think he's better than the ones around him. I think the other English players that we've got, whether it's Tammy Abraham, whether it's Ivan Toney, whether it's Raheem Sterling, I think he's better than him. I just think he's a better footballer and he's in better form.
We've got a poll in the comments. Do you want Marcus Rashford to go to the World Cup? 55% say yes, 45% say no. It's pretty tight.
Close that.
Yeah. Considering I thought it would be.
You know what? And Scotty, listen, I understand your point of view, and I remember the Beckham effigies out at Lamppost. I remember Phil Neville getting death threats. I remember Ronaldo, who didn't even play for England, getting his house vandalised because he dared to wink when Rooney got sent off. I remember the chance against Rooney after South Africa and the chance to Sancho and Rashford this season. I understand that if it goes wrong, the first people you look at are United players. I just have a feeling or a belief that for Marcus now, he's just turned 25, he's just hit 100 goals for United. I think he's on fire, and I think that he could... I know he's not perfect, I'm not saying he is, but I think he could go to Qatar, and I think he could do something special for England, and I think he could benefit from that.
I agree with your points if he was playing under a different manager amongst different players.
There are some reasons to argue with that one. Cynical.
I'm not... I understand that. Gareth Southgate for me, is an odd manager.
And it seems to be shaping up towards a bit of a disaster.
He doesn't come out. He don't get his job this side of the other side of Christmas.
It doesn't seem like it, does it?
No, I understand that. That's a fair point.
Right. Thank you very much for this special episode of Scotty and Marty. Jay, thank you very much.
Scotty and Marty, I love it.
Yeah.
Not even round that way.
Make sure you check out Scotty and Marty podcast.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you've always got an opinion.
Scotty or side Marty?
Oh, don't make it like that. It's about Rashford and that's it. I would rather watch more games of Marcus Rashford because I like seeing him, so I'd rather he went. But only from a purely selfish, like, let me watch Rashford do well.
Yeah.
Because obviously I like Man United more than England, but I'd rather
Can I
England win
just
the World
ask
Cup
Scotty,
than anyone else.
do you think if he goes, he'll do well? Do you like if you? Do you
If he
think-
gets the opportunity, I think that the teams that they've got in the group are there to be terrorised.
Yeah.
But I equally think that other side of Christmas, there's going to be defenders that have also gone to the World Cup that might be run ragged, and if he's fit, then it gives him more opportunity to do the
Fair
same sort
enough.
of thing.
I don't think there's a. You know, I'm not necessarily in like you're
want him
wrong.
to- I want him
Do you
to
know what
go.
I
I
mean?
want him
I
to
just
go.
have to go with my gut and my belief, and my belief is it's better for him.
I'll let him go, but he's not allowed to get injured. How about that? How about that for a compromise? He's
Yeah.
got to score the winner in the final, yeah?
Yeah,
We can only
as long
agree
as
on
keep
that?
it
Yeah.
bubble wrap.
Yeah, exactly.
For
Right.
In guitar, that'd be hot, wouldn't it?
It was fucking hell.
Ball wrapping guitar.
Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you do check out the Scotty and Marty podcast that I alluded to before. This has been Round Our Way. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit subscribe, as you can see there, if you haven't already, to Stretford Paddock, and we'll see you in a bit.